listening to the Punisher Waterfowls, the Union 0430 podcast. Brought to you by Real Geese Decoys, the most technological advanced silhouette decoys on the market. And Vortex Canada, the force of optics.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Union 0430. This is episode 109, and we promised that we were going to have some big guests coming up, and we are not, you know us, we're never going to disappoint. We've got Cory Foskett, the owner, part owner, the family, the head of the family that owns Tanglefree. So we've come full circle. We've had Sean Stahl on, we've had Eric Massey on. Now it's time to get Cory on, and we're going to explore everything Tanglefree. So sit back, relax. It's going to be a good one. We finally got Mark back with us. He's finally settled in Nova Scotia. So we should start to see Mark more regularly. Dave, look at Dave. No sling, shoulders starting to mend up. Still worried about the fall on if he's going to be able to shoot yet, but hopefully we're going to be able to get him a 28 gauge or a BB gun or something like that, and we'll be able to get him shooting.
If any of our listeners in Canada have a line on a 28 gauge A400, hit me up. We could become best friends. I'll send you a bunch of stickers.
There you go. And of course, Ryan coming to us from Nova Scotia. I'm a little bit jealous finding out that Ryan and Mark are going to be hanging out together again all the time, and I'm not going to be part of this. But that's for another episode. We won't talk into that. We won't talk about that. But coming to us all the way from California, it is Cory Foskett from Tanglefree. Cory, buddy, thank you so much for coming on. We've been chatting for seems like a long time, and today is the first time I get to see your face. So thanks so much for coming on, buddy.
Yeah, no problem. Appreciate you guys wanting to have me on and hear a little bit about Tanglefree. So yeah, it's kind of cool. You exchange a lot of emails and texts, and it's good to kind of get to see faces and kind of feel like we're all just hanging out chatting, you know.
And 100%, and that's 100% the theme and the goal of this. Just sit back, relax, have a good chat, and maybe we can all learn a little something. But as usual, like Ryan normally says, the good stuff always happens before we hit the record button. So we got another little bit of education, because you said you were in the San Francisco Bay Area, and I was like, what? There's waterfowlers down in the Bay Area and stuff like that. And then you had to educate me on that. So in case you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, there are a significant amount of waterfowlers in the Bay Area. And we know because we've had Bird Dog Waterfowl on before, who's up in Northern California, and the waterfowling up there is, we know, amazing. But down your way, I didn't realize that there was as many, Cory. So thanks for the tidbit of information, buddy.
Yeah, you bet. You know, like I said, just for the other listeners, like we talked, is like, you know, it's a 100-day season, really, really good limits. I mean, 7 mallards, 15 snows, 10 specks. Guys can hunt the bay. They can go after a lot of different diver ducks. Then you go up in the Sacramento Valley, and you can, I mean, all puddle ducks. And so there's a lot of different variations to hunt. And yeah, it's such a big state. There's people really get after it. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it is. It's a huge state. So it's not all the sunshine like the music videos lead us to believe.
Although it is pretty warm throughout most of the year, you know. I mean, you guys would probably be surprised, like, wait, it doesn't even get that cold, you know. So
no,
we want it to get cold, obviously, but
just like Texas.
Yeah.
But up in Northern California, like, there's snow on the mountains, you know what I mean? Like there's snow and everything like that in the wintertime. So it still dips down. So for all of our US listeners, they're like, these guys from Canada don't know nothing. And it's not for you guys, it's for the Canadian listeners that don't know about California. Okay, guys, so chill out. So anyways, I want to get into Tanglefree because I'm a big fan of Tanglefree, and I know Dave is. I know the boys are because we've all bought stuff from Tanglefree. But I wanted to give you a story about my and Dave. Dave already gave his customer service story, but I'll give you a story that I had with Tanglefree. So a bunch of years ago, Tanglefree had done a partnership with Delta Waterfowl where they had a bunch of gear given to Delta Waterfowl, and Delta Waterfowl branded Tanglefree gear with their logo, right? And it was being auctioned off at events. So I, on a silent auction, won this kick-ass, it was sort of like a duffel bag, but it was on wheels. And it was like Max 4 camo, had, Tanglefree embroidered onto it and Delta. And I don't know, I took it for probably a half a dozen hunts, throwing my clothes and stuff in it. And one of the seams started to let loose, right? So I just called up Tanglefree and I told him, I was like, hey, listen, this is what's going on. Yeah. Well, we don't make that bag anymore, so we can't replace the bag, but here's what the bag's worth. Can we send you something? I was like, I'll take decoys. Absolutely. So bunch of decoys, a free t-shirt. And I was like, see, this is the type of company I like. Customer service. I love it. So,
I like to hear that. Sounds like it left a good taste in your mouth. And here we are several years later. That item was probably a good six plus years ago. That was a special build for Delta Waterfowl. Yeah.
Oh, is that right?
Great. It was a special build to try to just do something different for what they're looking for. So yeah, definitely.
It was a kick-ass bag. I loved it. Anyways,
yeah,
I got some woody decoys out of it, so it all worked out in the end.
Nice. Yeah, the whole customer service side of things, quality control. I mean, we can go through all of the inspections and visit factories and do everything, but at the end of the day, there's certain things that are they're just out of our control, right? Mm-hmm. And all we can do is we certainly appreciate when someone takes their hard-earned money and gives it a chance to buy Tanglefree. So like, we have a process that we go through, and we always want to make it right, because once again, everyone has choices. So we certainly try to stand behind it and leave a good taste in the customer's mouth.
Yeah, 100%. And you certainly did with me, and I've been a repeat customer ever since. I think 90% of my decoys are all Tanglefree now. Maybe 10% mix match with some other stuff that I've got. But so I wanted to talk about Tanglefree because, like I said, we've had Sean on before, and I know Sean has been a big part about the idea and new ideas of things to bring in and try to get out to the waterfowl community. And then, we've had Eric on, and Eric's a blast, and we've had a ton of laughs with him, and I chat with him fairly regularly. But I wanted to talk about this idea that Tanglefree, and I'm going to use a term, but you'll probably educate me, and it may not be the right term, but I'll use this term, direct to consumer, where you're not going to find Tanglefree in every outdoor store, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we started off. So we're in year 19 of the business, and we started off being a wholesaler, kind of going through those steps of dealers across the country, throughout the world, really, like in different countries in Europe. And just as things changed, we just kind of started thinking about what we wanted to do as a family-based business, and we did kind of change to more focused on a direct-to-consumer platform of a business. But I know you got some good friends up there in your neck of the woods. Pat at Canadian Waterfowl, where he's a dealer up there in Canada. We have other dealers, and we also have dealers in the US, but we're our main focus is at tanglefree.com. We just like the fact that we can have an experience like you mentioned, like, you bought that Delta Waterfowl bag. Well, if someone buys something from us, we want to be able to control the the relationship from the standpoint of if they have a problem, we're there to help. And we feel that our staff just excels at really taking it to heart, like that they want to help that customer. So it's been good for us. It's a lot more work, but I think it's definitely more like satisfying to form those relationships with customers across the country.
And Cory, like, tell me if I'm wrong here, but by you guys, I'll throw out this 90% direct to consumer, 10% you've got some dealers that do some stuff, right? Is it so? From a business point of view, it makes more sense for you guys, and this is the business model that you guys want to follow. Doing it this way, but I would hazard to think that you're able to keep the prices as low as possible by doing it the way that you're doing it, as opposed to having, to drop it down a price for a resale to a dealer that then they've got to put a markup on it. Like, is that right? Am I right there, or am I way out?
No, you're not way out. I mean, it's certainly, that's what we try to accomplish. But then again, we also put more money back into the product to make it stronger, more durable. So there's a lot of margin requirements when you're wholesaling.
Right.
So we certainly try to build a better high-end product and keep the costs down. Which has been a huge challenge the last couple of years. I mean, we've been, pre-COVID, ocean freight's gone up almost 5x of what it used to be. So when you're shipping a big bulky box of decoys, it's disgusting. Like something that used to say would cost us, $15 in the ocean freight side of the pricing, it was getting upwards of like $65. And they're like, we couldn't pass along. We didn't feel comfortable passing those costs along to the consumers, because like it was very difficult. And on the domestic side of things, I mean, UPS is the carrier we use, and UPS and FedEx go hand in hand, as far as competing. But we've experienced a 12% increase in domestic freight, and then this past year we took on another pretty big increase on production side of things. So it's made it difficult to try to keep the price down, but we're doing everything we can, and without sacrificing the integrity and the quality of the product, pretty much.
We've heard some stories from people just chatting, most of the time off the air here. So not to put anybody on single anybody out, but we've heard some stories about, especially over on the California coast, and San Diego, everything coming into that bay, that port, like freighters being out there for 3 and 4 weeks, waiting to come ashore to offload, and just sitting there waiting for an inspector to get out there to inspect the sea containers, make sure everything was kosher and everything was good to go before, they can even start to offload these sea containers.
Yeah, I mean, 3 to 4 weeks would actually, believe it or not, be low. So we come into the port of Oakland. So that's, San Francisco Bay Area, Oakland. Down south is the big one, is Long Beach. And the lady here that handles all our logistics, like, it was an everyday discussion, and we were getting all these different types of reports coming in, and they would have upwards of like 80 vessels, and that would be out, and they had to go further out, and they were so further out they couldn't anchor, so they had to keep the vessels running. So that was driving up the cost, because they were just burning fuel because they couldn't come close enough to anchor. So it was a really, really bad situation for about 18 months, as far as what they were doing. And everyone was kind of handcuffed. I mean, consumers in America were handcuffed, and it was really unfortunate, because I think there was a lot of things that could have been done differently, but completely out of our hands. And you just had to hope and wait that your container would get to the port, and then you could get a scheduled appointment to get it out of there. So,
insane.
But luckily we tend to believe in keeping product year round. We try to. It's a financial obligation, but it's just something that we feel comfortable with. You got to have the stuff to sell it, and it's not like we can just go out and make it ourselves. If we could, it'd be a lot different, but we can't. So we tend to run heavy on inventory pretty much through most of the year is kind of our thought process. Our accountant isn't too happy with us about that, but that's just kind of what we want to do.
Go for it, Dave. I know you got something.
No. I was just listening up.
Okay. I wanted to talk about this because obviously we're big fans of First Lite here. I wanted to talk about this collaboration that I had no idea that this collaboration was happening. So it was really cool that Dave and I are really horny about First Lite, and then all of a sudden we start hearing rumblings that, well, Tanglefree is probably going to be doing some stuff with Taifa, but we didn't know for sure. We hadn't seen anything, just some rumblings, and then bang, you guys drop it on the same day that they do when they drop their Waterfowl lineup. And I gotta say it's pretty impressive, and loving seeing that camo pattern on your product. But the shitty thing about it is that I got a new blind bag from Tanglefree last year that is no good to me now. So now I need a new blind bag. So
not to put you on the spot, but
no. Yeah. All right, we'll see what we can do.
No, I'm not. I don't mean it that way, but.
I know. You're just having fun. No, it's really cool. We've worked with them for quite a while now to as part of the game plan to roll it out. And we looked at it as what we try to do is, it's so amazing across the country how geographically certain areas really gravitate towards a specific camouflage pattern, right? So like the Southeast might be really into bottomland, mossy oak bottomland, or natural gear. Of course, the Max 4s, the Max 5s, the Max 7s of the world, Realtree, that's extremely popular across the country. We obviously have had great success and popularity with the Sitka, the Optifade, marsh and timber pattern. So we really looked at this opportunity to just give waterfowlers another tool in their toolbox that they can choose. So it is amazing how waterfowlers become very loyal to a specific camouflage company and a specific camouflage. So all we're trying to do is give as many potential customers a choice. Ultimately, you guys, the four of you, all have a choice. What's your camo of preference? And First Lite gave us that opportunity, and we're like, yeah, like we obviously, talked quite a bit and thought this is a good fit to give waterfowlers a choice. And so it's been cool.
Yeah. And putting out some fabulous products. So, here we go. There's Mark. See, that's why we got Mark. Mark is the technical genius, and he shares his screen and stuff like that. But Dave, I believe you've already got your hands on the gun case, right, Dave?
Yep. And then I'm trying to get my hands on the panel blinds for our goose camp.
Right.
Because we'll need 2 sets for that.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to get a set of those, but yeah. Yep.
Yeah, it's cool. The stuff looks really good. And it's great. And like I said, it's just they're a fantastic group of people to work with. And we couldn't be happier to be offering the Taifa pattern with the stuff that we're looking at on the site,
Yeah. It's awesome. I got to come back to this panel blind idea. Because I remember when we had Sean on and talking about, and Sean used to use this term, like the evolution of the hunter, right? And how and maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain I'm right here, but I don't think anybody was doing the panel blind until you guys brought it onto the market, right? Like everybody was strict coffin blinds.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the only thing. And then the panel blind was like, this thing is amazing. Where did this come from? And I can remember Sean saying, well, 20 years ago, this was what we were using. We weren't using coffin blinds. And then we switched to coffin blinds and now we're going back to panel blinds. But it just seems like there's not a lot of people that I know right now that are hunting at a coffin blinds. Most everybody's hunting at a Tanglefree panel blinds now.
Yeah, it's been a really cool ride with the panel blinds. So, Sean obviously is a very, very serious about trying to hunt Canada geese. Like he really works hard at putting birds on the ground or putting them in the opportunity, right? Works hard at all that. And I forget how it came up one time, but we just started talking and he said, through different variations of literally hog wires or whatever you call it. There's a lot of different versions people call it, but they had these makeshift blinds. And a lot of people had makeshift panel blinds, but they weren't panel blinds. So we worked pretty hard on it for a couple of years and had a great factory that we would work with on designs. Did a lot of Skype conversations, video conferences where a lot of tooling went into it to get it figured out and then get readjusted. And the air freight bill wasn't pretty going back and forth because it would go from overseas to California. I'd get my hands on it, then I'd ship it to Stall in Michigan. Sometimes I would ship stuff in different parts of the country, even into Canada one year because I wanted him to get his hands on it to test it. So we went through a lot of revisions to where we got it. We still have a lot of different tinkering that we continue to mess with now. But like any good product in any field of anything that we our daily lives is we were first to market with it, and then it was only a matter of time before other companies come to market. But I do think there is something to say about being first to market with product.
100%.
I think it works very well, and so we've been happy with it. I never thought that product would be as good as it was. And you're right. The things I've heard about why people hunt predominantly out of panel blinds as opposed to, like you talked about, the coffin blinds is, you think about waterfowling, like the five of us, if we were to all hunt out of coffin blinds, we can't really have the interaction, right? Like if we're in a panel blind, I can look to my left or my right, and one of you guys is going to be within 2 to 3 feet of me. You can laugh, you can kind of look at the guy and let him know, like, hey, there's birds that way. If we're all in a blind, you might have to yell to me to look to my right. It's just, and then you talk about younger hunters and older hunters, they can get on the birds quicker and easier. And older guys, I think it's giving them some longevity where they can get out of a blind. They're sitting on a blind stool and they're sitting straight ahead looking, and they don't have to come up out. So I think that's great for the younger generations and the older generations as well.
It's also easier to share snacks.
Oh man, you bet, right?
What's clutch.
What snacks we talking about?
Mark, just anything. Yeah. Like you don't want to get into snacks with these boys. Come on now.
You can cook a full breakfast in the panel blind on a Coleman stove. You can't do that in the layout.
Yeah.
I mean, how else are you going to have jerky in your mouth when the birds show up?
That's right.
Yeah. So I'll tell you guys, we off the air, we were talking about California. It's not nearly as cold as other states. It's a different cold, right? But it's still not that cold. But I always laugh, like when I first started hanging out with Stahl and the Goose Crew, like Eric Massey and the boys, they would make fun of me because I would show up in like 8 layers because they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, look, I don't want to be cold. Like if I'm cold, I'm miserable. Yeah. So of course, when you're sitting in a panel blind, they can all make fun of you. And I'm like, hey, I'm warm. Well, then it was nice to see on a couple hunts in Kansas, these guys had like the heated socks. I'm like, whoa, hold on, wait a second. I'm like, you're giving me a bad time. Like you all have heated socks. Like don't make fun of me ever again. Right? No, like that's not fair.
Absolutely.
But then the best thing that ever happened is when they all started bringing the heaters. So you got all these heaters on, and it literally made it unbelievable. So like now instead of being 8 layers, I'm probably down to about 4, maybe 3, because I got heaters all around me, so it makes it awesome.
So, go Dave.
No, I was actually going to ask, you were talking about how you'd sent the panel blinds back and forth to stall. And do you find it's harder to come out with a new, like, obviously you send things back and forth to make sure they work, and you'll probably spend a whole season using them. But do you find it's harder to keep things secret now with the way social media is? Like, I'm finding, like, especially the First Lite products with this duck lure, people were watching that like, oh, did you see this new jack? Oh, I wonder what this is. Like, do you find people are doing that with your stuff, and it's harder to keep things kind of under wraps before?
Yeah, it is. It's really difficult. I mean, with like First Lite stuff as an example, I take a great deal of pride on like doing what I say I'm going to do. So, we signed a non-disclosure. When samples started coming in, I actually didn't even want samples shipped to me in my warehouse in California, because I didn't want to chance somebody walking in the door and seeing a First Lite product in my warehouse, like with our logo on it. So like, I just had everything shipped directly to First Lite, because like I wanted to know that I had nothing to do with it if it got out there, right?
Wow.
Like I just didn't want to deal with it. And even here, we have a sample section in the back corner of the warehouse, and we definitely welcome people that come into Tanglefree here all the time, and they're always, we let them walk around and stuff, and they're always trying to peek in this back corner because they know that's kind of the new stuff. But we'll always be like, hey man, like come over this way, So,
you can't take away the passion of a waterfowler though, right? Like that just goes to show just how passionate they are.
You can't blame them for trying to like get back there and grab something. But yeah, we're always tinkering with stuff. But yeah, you're right, Dave. It is hard to keep stuff, I would just say, kind of like under wraps, or to not know about it. And then obviously then there's the strategic leaks. I mean, we see them every day, like the strategic leaks in social. And sometimes they happen on accident, and more times than not, they're purposely done. Just a little sneak peek, and you'll watch comments. Someone's like, "Hey, in that bottom left corner was that X," and you're like, then you can kind of play with it that way. So
probably getting good at going, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
it was kind of neat. Like every time you'd see these new videos now, people are they're going frame by frame trying to see a new thing and trying to be the first one to be like, hey, look what I saw, and what do you think this is? And wow, that's actually that's from 20 years ago. Some guy just brought it out from his barn. Like, those are the best ones. But
and just totally messing with people, right? Yeah. But as you guys know, as avid waterfowlers, there's stuff that worked, just say 25 or 30, like it will come back.
Oh yeah.
You look at the popularity of, so when we first bought the business, we bought a company called Bond, and they were basically a very entry level knockoff of like a Carry Light or Sport Plast with recycled plastic. A month and a half into that business, we purchased Tanglefree, and we rolled everything out from the Bond name into Tanglefree. Bond went on to bigger and better things. They had patio furniture and pruning shears. They became a very, very big company, extremely successful. So with Tanglefree, like, that was our backbone. The original Tanglefree decoy line on lead anchors, made in the USA. The tensile strength and all this stuff was incredible. About 10, 12 years ago, when Texas rigging became popular again, it's just kind of almost blew right by our Tanglefree decoy line. And I mean, look, you guys as waterfowlers, we could all look online right now and find 20 plus different versions of Texas rigging, like 20 plus, no problem. I mean, so what we're trying to focus on a lot as waterfowlers, I think it's I like to say like fast food mentality. Like you want something like, what's the easiest thing to set up, to break down, to get you into the field, to get you out of the field. And like, it's kind of sad in a way, because like the traditions of like, you with like your grandfather or your father or your buddies getting together to string up decoys, to clean decoys and go. Like people don't want to do that anymore. Like they'd rather just buy new stuff, sell it off, buy new stuff, sell it off. So
those are millionaires.
That's what we're built with. So we yeah. So, but we have to we think of when we come out with products, like how much can we assemble it so the person doesn't have to assemble it, but then we have to keep in the considerations, like, well, how big is it, you know, in a container, like how much are we going to pay in shipping if we don't make it smaller? So it's a balancing act. We have to figure out all that stuff.
Well, boys, I got to ask you now, like, since Cory brought that up, like, I don't think I've hunted with you guys. I don't think I've ever heard any of you guys say that I need to be faster setting up, but I've heard you guys say convenient. It needs to be convenient for the setup. So the best example, like your decoys being in a rat's nest when you're trying to pull them out of the bag or whatever. But I don't think I've ever heard any of you guys say that I need to be faster setting up, because we all when we say, okay, and this is how the math goes, okay, legal time is at 6:30, so it takes us a half hour to get from the boat launch to where we're going. It's going to take us 15 minutes to set up, and we just keep going backwards in our math. So fast, I don't think is something that is in our repertoire. Mark?
So for what most of us are doing when we're doing our normal hunts together,
yeah,
most full bodies you're going to have are 6 or 8 dozen, maybe more. If you're using silhouettes, it's up to 15 dozen sometimes. But those are not great big numbers in the general scheme of things when you're setting up decoys. Really, it's 72 or 84 or 96 full bodies. They're not that hard to set up and tear down.
Right.
Ryan, on the other hand, when he goes out west, I'm guessing
fair.
has a much greater number
Fair
of snow decoys to set up.
Yeah.
What are your numbers, Ryan?
We're over 1,000 minimum.
Yeah. So then you're looking
Fair.
for convenience, for speed of setting
Yeah.
up.
But
okay.
Right.
Yeah, I buy that.
And you also got to look at the newer, like I've seen it oftentimes where I'll go out half an hour earlier than I thought I needed to be to make sure I'm set up, and then I'll have my coffee. Like I'll be all fully set up, and then you'll see this group just like whipping in, dust flying. They get to the spot, they're whipping as many decoys as they can. They're like, "Whoo, we made it by shooting light!" Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of that the newer. We talked about it before, like the newer guys and what they're. Yeah.
I find as a general rule.
Well, it's
when. Oh, sorry. Go ahead there.
no, you're good. Go. You're good.
I just find as a general rule in my experience of waterfowling, there's a balance. When you cut corners, you're generally going to put less birds on the ground. But if you're organized or you're trying to find ways to maximize, work smarter, not harder kind of thing, that balance, that's when you can save yourself some time. But never my opinion about waterfowling in general is the blue collar kind of mentality. And there is a lot of hard work that goes into it. And I think the more you have that mentality, the more success you're going to have. But there's nothing wrong with getting your, pardon the pun, your ducks in a row to make sure you're ready to go. And there's, people like Tanglefree who are trying to innovate to keep guys on time and on target for when the sun comes up.
Yeah. Fair.
Yeah. And like we talked about off the air before we started recording is I said, look, there's waterfowlers have no idea how good they have it compared to 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. Like, first off, the amount of clothing out there is incredible. Like, you can stay warm, you can stay dry, you can stay comfortable. Like, once you get cold and wet, like you're miserable, right? Like, I don't care if you're a little kid or it's just not fun, right? So people can hunt in comfort, stay dry, stay warm. And then you look at all the gadgets. I mean, every company out there is putting out really good stuff. So that's a must, right? Or that's a for sure thing. And then what else? I guess probably what I should have said is not only, in my opinion, of it's like when the product comes to your porch, is it easy to like assemble, right? Like how long does it take you? Like, so that's why I talked about like a Texas rigging side of things. Like, it's like we have our easy rigs, and like I said, there's 20 different ones out there. Like, you know, you guys don't, it's not as common, like the younger groups, like they don't want to get together and like have big spools of line and cut them in 3-foot lengths. And then someone's crimping, someone's cutting, someone's doing the anchor. So they would rather just buy the thing that's already pre-strung and it's ready to go. And then as far as in the field, I do think it depends on how big of the spread you're putting out. I mean, like when I have, you know, I try to go every winter with Stahl and the Goose Crew, Massey and the boys. And I try to do something different every day. Like maybe the first morning I help set out the decoys, but then I pick up the decoys. And the next day I do all the blinds. And like, I want to do everything so I can get my hands on it and just kind of see like, when Stahl suggests we need a 2-inch buckle instead of a 1-inch, I get it. Like I got it. It's cold. I got gloves on. So I like to try to do everything.
Right.
But it is nice. I like, you know, the whole work smarter, not harder. I think it's as we all grow older, you know, I kind of laugh. Like when I used to travel a ton for Tanglefree, like I was like, I would try to hit every single green light. And if I hit a red light, I'll be stressed out. I'll be running through the airport. And I finally got to the point where I'm like, this is stupid. Like leave 30 minutes earlier. If I hit 5 red lights, I don't care. If I get a far away parking spot, I'm still going to walk there, and I'm going to get there, and I'm going to have a cup of coffee or like a muffin, and I'm going to get on the plane and relax. Like it took me a while to be smarter instead of like sleeping in an extra like 30 minutes. Like just get up early and I could sleep on the plane. But I think it's the same thing with get to your hole, get it all set up, and then relax, you know?
Yeah.
And you can see some really cool stuff before shooting time. You're not stressed out, you know?
100%.
Anyway, guys, I gotta take off. Cory, it was very nice to meet you, and hopefully you come on again because I think we could talk about a lot more, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you bet, man. You bet. Have a good one. Have a good night. Pleasure. Thank you.
See ya.
Have fun, Dave.
Dave.
So in full disclosure, Dave is in demand these days with the kayak hunting, and he is heading over to the New Canoe podcast right now to talk about kayak hunting. So make sure that you follow that and you give that a listen and give some love to Dave. But continuing on with Cory and Tanglefree, like it is like, I can't imagine like here I am with a little tiny business up here in Canada, and you know, you're always striving to try and move forward, right? You're always trying to move the yardstick forward and trying to come up with a new idea that somebody hasn't done, or to make sure that your people are interested in you. So for a company like Tanglefree to be, and like you said, there's a ton of competition around these days, right? There's a ton of decoy companies, clothing companies, you name it. Somebody is out there and they're trying to take something that's already been introduced and trying to put their own spin on it and trying to innovate and come up with new things. So from a business perspective and from I don't even know the word I'm trying to say, but to try and keep moving forward, like it has to be a daunting task, Cory, to constantly be thinking, okay, so what are we doing next year? Because what little bit I do know is I do know that during these strategic meetings that businesses like yours have, next year is always right on the tip of your tongue. Like, what are we doing next year? What are we introducing next year?
Yeah, I think the one thing I've really learned is innovation is key, you know, and waterfowlers want to see new stuff. And if we as a company become stagnant and don't come out with new stuff, you kind of get left behind. So
big time.
We're, you know, I think the one thing I would think we're doing a better job at as we've done this, you know, for several years now, is I think we're getting better at like not rushing product to the market, make sure we've put it through the ringers, we feel really good about it, and then just have a plan to be like, okay, hey, this thing's 3 years out, no problem. Like, like we have a bag it's a popular bag for us. It's called the go-to bag. You had Eric Massey on. I mean, we actually talked about that at a SHOT Show, and then it literally it sounds ridiculous, but there's a lot of things that happen that are out of your control. It took 3 years to bring that bag to market, and you would think to yourself, come on, man, it's a bag. But like, there's so many things that happen that are out of your control. I mean, the design company that we worked with, there was absolutely like one of the largest fires in California history. It was in November of all time, and they lost their homes and their business, and like that's where we had that bag being developed, and we had like a couple prototypes. So you look at that tragic, horrible event, and it delays it. Then you materials and you're dealing with factories, so things take time. But the hardest thing is to tell yourself, just be patient and make sure you come to market. You only get one chance to bring a product to market. If you bring it like half-assed, you shoot yourself in the foot.
Cory, how do you, and when you guys are coming up with a new product, how do you like balance between innovation and like gimmick? Because I don't know if you've heard, like, the Waterfowl ammunition might be the most gimmicky ammunition in the history of ammunition. But when you guys are developing products, do you guys have that balance, or do you guys pretty much you have a screening process to make sure like through testing that this is something legitimate that consumers are going to want, and it's not like a gimmick, quote unquote?
Yeah, man, I don't know if I'm going to answer that perfectly, Ryan, but like, I feel like I have some very trusted sources, and you've mentioned Sean Stahl, you've mentioned Eric Massey, and then there's some other guys too that, and I have to take into effect, like, they all hunt differently. Like, they do, their style of hunting is different. So like, I have to realize, like, okay, do I think this product could be huge for us? Like, okay, so let's say the answer is yes, then it's a no-brainer. But then I have to look and say, I think this product might only be good in the Pacific Northwest. Man, do I think I'm going to sell a lot? I don't know, but maybe if I do it, it'll help open potential customer base to other products that we have. I don't know if I'm answering that. I've never really been presented that way, but I don't know.
It sounds
did
to
I
me
answer
like,
that, or?
yeah, it sounds to me like you have the knowledge base in the people you deal with they're not going to bullshit you. They're going to let you know.
Yes.
If something isn't, yes. It sounds to me that's what you're saying, right?
Yeah, and I think
I am, and
I think I kind of knew the answer of the question before I asked it, but like, because you have a good base of extremely knowledgeable field test type people, like guys like Sean and Eric, like, you can kind of weed that out, which I think is pretty a positive towards your brand overall, right? So
yeah, you bet, and people aren't, and there's other people too. There's a handful of guys too. I mentioned those two gentlemen because obviously you know them, they've been on your show, and then also the fact that they're pretty hardcore about their stuff, but they're not gonna lead me down a wrong road. Like, we have that very good mutual relationship with everyone that I deal with, that like, if I have 6 people and all 6 are like, yes, come out with it, like, I'm talking across the entire country, like, that's really good feedback, right? If I get like 2 out of 6, I'm like, ew, that's definitely going to get put way on the back burner. But if I get like 3 or 4 out of 6, but I'm thinking, what am I trying to accomplish if we did come to market with that product? And then I explain to the other people, like, they might say, hey, I would never use it. I'm like, I totally get it, but like, if 80% of the rest of the country uses it, I gotta consider it. So
of course.
Yeah,
I think the experience and the credibility of the people you have doing that kind of field testing is a big deal too. Like, you want somebody who's essentially following the flyway from up here in Canada in early September, and they're going all the way to like Kansas, California, Texas come like January, February. Like, they're hunting like 150, 200 days of the year. Those are the people who are really going to test your equipment, put it to the test limit all climates, all weather, all conditions, all year round.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at a guy like Stahl, like he'll be up in Canada here in another, I don't know, is it I'm trying to look at the calendar here. I can't see another month. And then he goes back to Michigan and he starts bouncing around everywhere. And he's seeing all different aspects of it. Right. So, a guy that heads up our promotional staff and does a lot of product testing, he's in Washington. Well, guess what? Washington's a pretty wet state, man. So he gets to see a lot of wet, muddy, just conditions that it's great for a lot of different testing of stuff that we do to see how stuff holds up, or is it a pain in the butt? Is it too heavy? Is it too light? So he does a great job too up in that neck of the woods,
But I think that's we throw around the term all the time, Cory, where we say we surround ourselves with good people and only good things will come out of it, right? And
absolutely.
And from what you're saying, like listen, you and to be 100% honest, you could be. You could put out the best product that you can, and you can have the best material, and you can have this and you can have that. But if you don't have the right people surrounding you that you can trust with their feedback, then you're, things may not go exactly as you plan. So, there's a lot of things that you can do to be a successful business. And all those things from A to Y, but X and Z, you got to have those people in your corner that you can rely on, because I can tell you, I am not a patient person, not at all. So like listening to you talk about coming to market with things and saying, yeah, I just got to be patient and make sure that it is at 100% what I want it to be before. But I wouldn't be able to do, like, I honest to God wouldn't be able to do it, because I'm not patient. I'm like, okay, let's just get it out there, get it in people's hands, and we'll it's like that whole Microsoft, like Bill Gates theory, right? Like with Windows way back in 95, he just pushed it out. We'll worry about the bugs. We'll let everybody tell us what the bugs are once we push it out. That is how that's how I would be.
Yeah. And I was that way.
What'd you say, Mark?
Sorry, Cory. Is that there's people listening to the show who weren't alive for that, by the way.
Oh,
true story.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, but I think I would like to think as along this journey that I've been on with my family, hopefully we get better every day in life and on the business side of things, which is, I rush some stuff to market, and I kind of sit back sometimes and be like, man, I wonder if I just waited. And so I think I took some hard lumps on some product that I thought could have been better. And things are just so much different now. I mean, I just look at this ride we've been on, and it's like, it's so much different. I mean, there was not social media, and
oh yeah,
you didn't, yeah, it's so different. But it's hard. I mean, our newest full body Canada goose decoys, I mean, we had them for like 3 years, and it was last year I was with Stahl and we were in Oklahoma, and I think we were walking out a big old, it was a big group of people. When Stahl comes to town, it's always funny. Like, he'll be like, oh, it's you and Massey and Phil and Tyson. And all of a sudden he'll be like, hey, there'll be 8 of us. By the time like the hunt happens the next day, there's literally like 15 people. And you're like, wait, everybody just kind of wants to come and be part of it. So
right.
I can certainly respect that. It's really cool. But I think we were walking out to get we had a pretty good rain out, and Carl, his dog, was going all over the place and getting dogs, and he had Massey going out. So we were walking out to get some stuff, and he's like, what are you waiting for on those decoys? We're calling back a little pod of, I'm like, oh man. And he's like, you gotta bring them to market. And like, if Sean Stahl's telling me they're ready to come to market, like, then they're ready to come to market. So
yeah,
I was being overly critical. I wasn't super happy with a few minor things. But when you're sitting there in the field and you're looking at this huge spread, and we had our slammer socks, we had our skinnies, we had old full bodies, we had these new ones. And I'm kind of looking back, I'm like, you know what? They look good, man. So if Sean Stahl's giving a stamp of approval, then what am I waiting for, you know?
Yeah.
Mm.
That's it's smart. Like the amount of goose hunting he's been doing over the years. If he says, you know, these full bodies are good, you can rest. You could sleep well at night knowing that they're good to go.
Yeah. And you know, one thing I learned too a long time ago was, so my wife and I have 3 daughters, and they've always been heavily involved in sports. So at one time I was coaching 3 basketball teams. All 3 were in track, and all 3 were in soccer. And then one was doing rodeo horse stuff. I mean, it was like, my wife and I would like just running all over the place. And then you'd have buddies calling up like, hey, like, come hunting. And I'll be like, no. And everyone always be like, oh, you missed out. I'm like, nah, I didn't miss out, because I'm not going to miss out on my girls' sports or activities, because once they're old enough and they can't do that stuff anymore, then. So where I've had to really focus on is, yes, when I do get out, I try to really enjoy myself and test the products. But that's where I've been lucky enough to find trustworthy people that do get in the field way more than me. There's other things I can do that are more important than putting time in the field to go hunting. Yes, I want to go, and it's a lot of fun, but I got to make sure the stuff's getting built. I got to make sure the stuff's getting shipped. I got to make sure I'm responding to emails, and I miss out on a lot of fun, but that's what's necessary to make Tanglefree continue to try to elevate and improve each year.
Absolutely. Well, you know, you've got the 3 of us on right now. Mark is really the only still serving member of the military in Canada. Both Ryan and I have retired, but keeping your family happy, and I don't mean like you just got to bend over backwards and do everything, but if you can keep your family happy, everything else sort of kind of takes care of itself, right? And that was something that we've always known, and we've always done it in the military. If we can keep things at home level, and everything is good at home, and we do what we can and attend the events. Listen, I've got a daughter that plays some pretty competitive soccer as well. I don't miss a game. I don't miss a practice. So I'm 100% with you on, now I'm not nearly half as busy as what you were, but, or what you were, but you got to, listen, you miss out on some hunts, but I've got a friend of mine, his son was a fairly good hockey player growing up. Now there was no ideas that this kid was ever going to make it to the NHL, but he was good. And I said to him, I said, Chris, you know, like, you're spending all this money on hockey, you're spending all your time off in the hockey rink and doing stuff. He said, listen, buddy, he said, I've got 18 years with him. He said, at 18, he's leaving the house. He said, and I'm not going to get to hang out with him anymore. He said, because he's going to go do his own thing. He said, if this is what I got to do to hang out with him, he said, this is what I'm going to do. And I thought to myself, I was like, you know what? When he put it to me like that, it just made so much sense to me. Because it's not just about the money and the time. There's way more to it than that, right?
You're right. I mean, 100%. What were we going to say, Mark?
Sorry, it's a bit of a common theme. Like, we've had a few people involved in the running of businesses on here, much larger businesses than, like, large businesses like yourself. And it's a common theme for those people running the businesses. They don't get out on all the hunts they'd like to, because during hunting season is when a lot of action happens company wise, right? So yeah, it's interesting to see how that's pretty consistent from company to company.
It is. And it's, you know what, it's life. Listen, I would much rather, just as well as everybody else, every waking hour, I'd love to be in a blind shooting birds. But that's just life doesn't work
Yeah.
out that way for me anyways. So,
Yeah.
you do what you do, man.
Yeah. So I grew up in where I live now, which is, it's called Clayton, California. And my family has like a working cattle ranch, and I spent as much time as I could possible out there with my dad, and we're California blacktail. So hunting all the time, right? Like during deer season. Well, ironically, like for example, deer season opened up last Saturday, and I had to, my wife and I divided and conquered. I was with my youngest daughter for a soccer tournament up by UC Davis, which is up by Sacramento. And it's like, I didn't even think about like, oh, maybe I'll just sneak out in the morning for a couple hours. Cause all I thought about is, man, what if something happens? What if I get something? Then I'm going to, not get her there in time. So I could care less about, I didn't go deer hunting on the opening weekend because I was up there all Saturday, all Sunday. I did come home Sunday, then I had stuff I need to run the house. And I'm like, I'm totally fine with it, man. Like, it doesn't bother me. I gotta spend time, really good quality time with my daughter. Like, it's about an hour and a half north of us, and, getting the lunches and the stuff. And I'm going to blink and she's going to be 18, like your buddy said. And it makes me sad to even think about that,
100%, buddy. And it's going to happen. Right. And I tell you what, the things you're not going to, I don't want to say you're not going to remember that day in the blind, but my daughter is a phenomenal midfielder. She's never scored a goal. And I'm afraid that the day that I don't show up is the day that she scores her goal.
They're gonna sneak her up more to the front.
Yeah.
She's gonna pressure up, and they're gonna get a pass back from a forward. Right?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna be there.
Yeah. How old's your daughter?
16.
Okay. So I have a 16, a 14, and soon to be 11. So, yeah.
We could do another episode on 16-year-old daughters, I'm sure, but
yep.
Mark has Mark has no kids, and Ryan's raising a stud right now. So awesome. he doesn't know the pain of a 16-year-old daughter. But I'm sure Nate will break a few hearts though.
Well, my girlfriend has an 11-year-old daughter, so it's coming.
Oh, does she?
So, yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's coming, buddy. It's coming. Cory, buddy.
They're incredible. Yeah.
Oh, they are. Buddy, we're at around that 60-minute mark, and and I'm sure we could keep going, just like I say it every time. We could keep going for a lot longer, but somebody told me one time that keep the audience always wanting more, so that's what we'll do. And you have an open invite, buddy, to come back on the show anytime you want. You know how to get a hold of me. All you've got to do is say, hey, Damien, I'd love to come on. I want to talk about this, and we'll get you on, buddy. I really mean that from the bottom of my heart, and I know the boys do as well. So there's an open invite for you anytime to come on the show. We love talking to you. It's been a blast. And the audience is going to love it, because there's, you did talk on a few things that I don't think the general waterfowling community understand when it comes to the business side of things.
Yeah, well, I really appreciate, like I said, it's awesome putting a name to a face. A lot of emails go through and some text messages and stuff. So it's super cool to put a name to a face. And I would tell you guys, I'll do it whenever you want. And hopefully
that's awesome.
Hopefully some people got to hear some stuff maybe they didn't consider, think about. But at the end of the day, I love what I'm doing, and we work hard at it, and I appreciate the opportunity to get on and share a little bit of some stories. So whenever I'm a phone call away, right?
Awesome. I am going to give you another opportunity to close out, but we will go to Mark first.
Okay. Cory, it was good to meet you. I think you're a second guest from California.
Mm-hmm.
Correct?
Okay.
Yeah.
So just the fact that we've had a couple of people who are in that waterfowling world in California has kind of opened up my eyes that there's a lot more waterfowling going on there than I had originally known about. It'd be interesting
Yeah.
to like.
No,
You don't
it's
hear
cool.
of California as a waterfowling destination, not in the normal circles, but I'm thinking that it would be a good waterfowling destination to go check out.
I'm sure the California residents are like, yeah, don't be bragging about it too much and bringing too many people down here.
Oh man, yeah. No, we like I said, I mean, you would be shocked about the amount of species that you could actually target in California.
Yeah.
The list is very, very long, you know? So it's pretty cool, but yeah, you have to make it out this way.
Ryan.
And by the way, that shirt you have, that is one of my favorite, that Canada Goose, that sketch tee. I've got the canvas back on, I got that sketch tee, but that's one of my favorite shirts.
No, I like this shirt. This is one of my favorites too.
Yeah.
Go for it, Ryan.
Yeah. I always like the one with the silhouette of the black lab in the high set that you guys
Oh
had.
yeah, we got a new one. We got a new one coming. We've kind of been on a 6-year run of doing different species of dogs. So I think later this month we're gonna launch an email. I think on National Dog Day. So you'll see the little shirt we got. Really, it's kind of been fun. We fall into like little patterns and just kind of try to go with it. So
The brown dog.
Don't be a brown dog. Don't be a brown dog.
Don't be a brown dog.
Phil never shut up about it. No, just it was awesome to have you on, Cory. Just to piggyback on Mark's comments, like California is like a sneaky good state. I almost called it a province. Sneaky good state for the states. I remember watching the Hunt 41 series, and they were talking about, like, they did a couple episodes in California, and it blew my mind. But when you ripped through the bag limits, I was like, man, that's a decent way to spend a fall, like, for sure. So, but
I know. Yeah, but the Hunt 41's cool. Yeah, Ben Potter is a friend of mine, and he's the one that does a ton of the one of the owners or whatever, producers ever. But I hooked him up with some friends, and he's a California guy anyways. And but yeah, we launched it here at our warehouse. We did a summer event. It was really cool. So, but we can get it at another time. But I know we're up against the clock, like you said. But
buddy, we can keep going. If you guys want to keep going, we can keep going.
Well, like you said, we kind of maybe give them a reason to come back, right? However your quote was, sure. But no, but it's been awesome, and I really appreciate it. I look forward to growing the relationship, guys. I do appreciate it. It's fun, good stuff.
Awesome. Cory, last words to you, my man.
Yeah, like I said, man, guys, it's been awesome, and I really appreciate the wanting to have me on, and love what I'm doing for a living, and it's always cool. I never thought like that I would get to meet as many good people in the industry as I have, and I hear, just getting to see a face as opposed to an email, it just makes a big difference, So looking forward to one day sharing a blind with you guys or something.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Definitely.
That's our goal. So just so you know, that's the entire goal of this show, right? We meet as many people as we can so we can get as many invites to come hunting as we can. That's the entire reason of the goal. Yeah, that's it. We just want to travel and meet up with people and hunt with people. So again,
we'll
boys,
some stuff out.
We figured it out. We got it. Another invite, boys. We're winning. Ladies and gentlemen, this was awesome. It worked. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the latest episode of the Union 0430. Like we always say, we will never pretend to be experts. We are a group of friends that are passionate about hunting birds, and we love having these experts and these business people and people that are just forming the community for us. We love having them on and passing on their information to all of you. Surround yourself with good people. Big love, and we'll see you all next week.